So welcome to our growth story with Sian Kelly. We should be seeing people arriving. Yes, the first attendees are just here. So we've got Andrew. Andrew, we'd love to have you members of the club. I know you come to so many of our things. Now, this is a rearranged growth story session, but so pleased, very, very pleased to be with Sian. And I think it's fair to say, Sian, as our members would say, you have a very big train set now. You are is it triple or quadruple award-winning firm?
Oh gosh, I can't remember, Heather. You didn't tell me to count the awards.
Just kind of goes to show to them.
How many in front of them at the moment? Four. I can say 4. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's clearly an award-winning firm, and it's great to see that we've got some members here. Hello, Penny. Hello, Hugh. And you are the award-winning. You're a founding member of the club. Are you now 1.5 million in turnover?
Little bit more,
absolutely. So, Sian, do you want to give us, and you've just done, literally, I saw on LinkedIn, it's your 10-year anniversary. That's good going.
As in form. We had a slight incarnation before that, but that's a long story. So it's almost 12 years, but yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the 2 years before then. That was just your learning. That was just your learning point. I see we've got another club members show joining us. So why don't you, Sian, just give us that quick potted history of the firm, such as what prompted you to start? How big are you now?
Okay. So what prompted me to start? I was actually made redundant after my second daughter, and decided actually, rather than be driving up and down the motorway, in my big job, going to lots of meetings and never doing school drop-offs and stuff, that I'd set up a small consultancy doing just management accounts. It was sort of the initial plan. I think I quite quickly worked out they don't want to just really pay you for management accounts. They want a one-stop shop for stat accounts, tax and bookkeeping as well. So quite early on, I worked out that I didn't really want something that was completely reliant on me, and that would have, I was thinking like a true accountant here, that would have no value afterwards for selling. Because if I operated as a consultant, there's no real value in that. It's just me. So sort of redundancy sort of got the ideas formulating. I sort of accidentally had a third child then, so had a little maternity leave and more time to formulate ideas, and decided to set up in practice. So it all came basically from wanting to spend more time with children and having flexible hours, not being stuck in a corporate sort of 9 to 5 that's not really 9 to 5, because it was like 6:30 a.m. in the morning to get to London on time, and then you get home at 8 o'clock at night type scenario. The point of having children was being able to see them and being able to do the school drop-offs. And you know, since I've had the business, I've been very strict about that. I do school hours most, you know, I do the odd evenings, but that's probably because I've been to have a manicure or something in the day. It gives me complete flexibility. I've been there for the children all through primary school. I've been at all the school plays and stuff, and I've had flexibility to go on holiday whenever we want, and I'm not restricted to going away 4 weeks of the year and stuff. So that was the whole idea behind setting it up.
So how many team members are you now?
30-ish. I need to count exactly because we've done a couple of acquisitions.
And just let me.
So some of them are part-time. They're not all full-time employees.
So you've got 30. You know, when you're like, I've just gone and lost my notes. That's it, found the notes. That's good. That's never a good thing. So you're 30, and one of the things people need to realise is you've just completed 2 major acquisitions that took you really from 1 million to 500,000. In the last year. So apart from the acquisitions, what are some of the decisions that you've made that truly accelerated your growth?
Oh gosh, trying to think. I think the biggest thing, and I've said this before. I read when I was first sort of thinking about setting up and stuff. I really did my research, and I read E-Myth, as well. And I have never been the real doer in the business. I've been the one sort of looking at the strategy, going out, getting the clients in, and formulating everything behind the scenes. So I haven't had all my time taken up with being the doer and actually having to do client work. Oh, Heather, that's the door and I'm the only person here.
It's all right. I'll chat on some of your stories.
I am so sorry. 1 second.
That's all right. So
really
knowing Sian's story, yes, some of the things that accelerated her growth were doing a few small acquisitions on her way, particularly the first one allowed her to get enough business to justify having a contractor to support her. But as you'll hear from Sian, she's never done a set of accounts. She's never done a personal tax return. Yes, she's done the management accounts. Yes, she's done the new business development. But what you'll find with Sian is from day one, she was growing this practice. So she was not being the main doer, the main person to deliver it. And, you know, Sian and I have had long conversations about this. Is it the right thing? Is it not the right thing? But what she did was she's always invested in good school leavers to join as apprentices. So they've now got some really great homegrown young managers who have had the cloud, you know, got the cloud, because Sian's been on the cloud from day one. They don't come with any traditional firm baggage. And one of the things you'll discover about Sian is that, you know, she's really thinking about this more as a management accountant rather than a compliance driven accountant. So she's always thinking about, let's look ahead. And they've always had a very profitable bookkeeping service as a main part of their business. And as Sian has said, you know, as she's grown, she's found other people to do stuff. And so, you know, very early on, I think when she was under 500,000, she was already investing in an outsourced marketing director to support a marketing exec within her team. So Sian, I've just talked about the fact that you invested in good school leavers to join as apprentices, that you've always built the practice up on good cloud principles, almost as a management accountant rather than a compliance accountant. So, you know, that core of bookkeeping, and, you know, you have a very profitable bookkeeping service now. And also you've along the way have brought in others. You do less and less doing. So I think you were under 500,000 and you already had an outsourced marketing director.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah, we did the marketing really early on, but this is where I think I approach this like a management accountant. I've come in and I was used to sort of sitting on the board at the big companies I worked at and seeing how everything ran. So I've approached running my practice like that.
Yeah. So I think, you know, I'm looking at the people who are listening into this, and hi Kay, hi Kim, hi Navid, hello Sarah, and hello Nicola, but the rest of it are club members. Although, hello Andrew, we'd love to have you through the doors. We've got Fred here. We've got a lot of club members, and I think a lot of club members are wanting to know, how did you manage to stay firm, still grow in 10 years, you know, 9 years to 1 million, year 10 to 1.5 million, and mostly work school hours? What's your secret? How did you remain firm and not just get pulled into it?
Well, I don't actually know how to use tax calc and I don't log into it. So I've got a slight advantage over other people because they've probably got that temptation. I don't go near it and I can't do it. And I have no intention whatsoever of learning. It's not my job. That's not what I'm there to do. So I've had a slightly easy out in that I never sort of learned how to use the stat accounts and tax software because I've come from a management accounting background. But I suppose you could argue I could get sucked into the bookkeeping and doing the management accounts. But again, I just don't. I refuse to do it. That's what I'm paying staff for. That is not my job. And I have plenty of other things to do. And if I start doing that, then the management of the business doesn't happen and the growth doesn't happen. It's as simple as that. And also, I like to be able to have flexibility and be able to go away on holiday and stuff. I can't do that if I'm tied to doing management accounts and set client work at set times of the year. So, well, set times of the year, set times of the month.
And I think, you know, I think we've worked together now for 7 years. I think one of the things I've noticed is A, you invested in these youngsters, but B, you've had a number of senior contractors around you that, you know, have allowed you to be profitable and not get your hands dirty with this stuff. But, you know, we're seeing this actually awesome headline growth. You know, did you win Fast Track Firm of the Year?
Yes.
Yeah, you did. And
did we? Oh God, Heather, I don't know which ones they are either. I'm just having a look. No, client service.
Oh, right.
And digital and innovative, we were finalists for Fast Track Firm.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we didn't win Fast Track, we were finalists for that one.
Right. So we've heard about your growth, but what actually has stopped your growth? What's limited your growth?
Now limiting my growth is the 2 acquisitions we've done, and I need to focus on bedding them in. And also it's funny, I've just been listening to a podcast before I came on this, because something had popped up in my inbox about how firms struggle to go from 20 to 50 employees. And I haven't got all the way through it yet, but what I've picked up on is it's getting that management tiering, and that's where I'm struggling at the moment now. Is actually, I can manage everything, but it's quite a big task managing 30 people. And yes, I've got some sub managers in there, but they need some handhold. It's getting that good, strong management structure in for growth. That's the difficulty now that I'm finding, is getting across that hurdle of me being the direct access for everybody. And you've got some people who've been with me for 10 years who want me to be the direct access, yet that's not going to be how it is.
And I know, you know, you've made some poor hires.
Oh God, yeah, we all do that.
Yeah, and some of them at a very senior level.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I think we all have to do this. And for you, and you know, it's interesting. We often talk about, you know, the reason that slows people up from getting 250 to 500,000 is because they need to free themselves up from being the doer. You know, you, apart from doing some business development, management, accounting in the early days, you did very little doing. And you've managed to move all of that practice management stuff onto other people that you brought in. But and we say to people, it's you know, getting yourself out of the doing is your big challenge from 250 to 500,000. And then we say to people, look, as soon as you're getting above 10 people, it's what's the leadership team around you? You can't do it all by yourself. And I think, you know, we often carry on managing our firm in the same way that we used to manage it. So if we think about it, you know, day one to wherever was all about where's the next piece of work coming from. And we used to spend a lot of our thinking time, where's the next piece of work coming from? And then we get good at winning work. And then we realize we've got to manage people. So we then get good at managing people. And we're less worried about winning work because that stuff's just sorted. And I see a lot of people don't then make the transition to, I have a leadership team, I have senior people, I'm not there to get my hands dirty. My role now, I imagine a lot of your role is about managing capacity versus resource.
Yes, and that's why we put carbon in about, I don't know, it's January we started looking at it. That's why we put a system in for that, because we were doing it off workflow max and spreadsheets and stuff. But this is where you talked about having a very profitable bookkeeping function. Yes, we have, but not everywhere, because clients have grown, and when you start looking at the analysis out of it, you can pick up on things. And that's where I'm spending a lot of time now, because I want to get my head straight on how that will work. But then I need to pass that down to somebody else. That's not going to be my job.
Exactly. And it is, as you say, you know, when you get to this sort of somewhere above 500,000, your role as leader of the business is capacity, resource, profitability. And I often see a lot of people where, you know, I literally was with a club member today and I said, your role has now changed. You have to embrace that. So, you know, you've had some acquired team members. And, you know, how do you get them to work the Inform Accounting way? Because you are very ahead of the curve. You know, there's a reason that you've been the face of Xero's annual accounts type stuff. You know, you are ahead of the curve. How do you get those acquired team members to work the Inform Accounting way?
Well, they don't all. Some of them will choose to leave because it's not how they want to work. And that's fine, because it's not going to work. You can't put what is it, square peg around hole scenario?
Yes,
Doesn't work. But we treat, when the staff and the other practices have come on board, we've done them a full induction like any new starter has with us. One of the practices we've acquired is very, very traditional and paper based. That we're doing it very, very slowly with them and transitioning things very slowly. It's down to the individuals in different teams as well, how open they are to change and stuff as well. So,
you know, you've done a number of acquisitions, and I think probably people are thinking, well, she's a cloud-based practice. Of course, there are loads of cloud-based clients, but no, actually, you're often buying these very traditional paper-based practices because, you know, that's how you can often make some money on them.
Yeah.
So how do you make sure you hang on to the right clients that you've acquired? What are your best tips?
You need to go through them one by one and work out which are the good ones and meet them early on, which has been difficult to do with buying two practices quite close together. And also what you'll find where the practices are very paper-based, it doesn't mean you can't be putting them onto the cloud, because they're all going to have to move onto the cloud in one form or another with the MTD changes and stuff. You know, everyone's got to do their VAT off software now. Anyone who was paper-based, before the two big acquisitions, we did a couple of smaller ones several years ago. So we've done this before. If they insist on bringing you in paper, you just put the paper onto cloud software once it's in your office and automate it at that end, and then transition the clients gradually to maybe using Receipt Bank, and they don't have to bring a box of paper in, and you get there over time. And it might be that the dad was running the business, didn't want to change, and over the period of 5 years, the son or daughter comes in and actually they're desperate to change. You'll get there with it. It's you can't just have a big bang approach to it, though. We've done it gradually as well, and also for staff capacity.
Yeah, so I'm really hearing that it's iterative. We've got a couple of questions from Sarah here. So Sian, what KPIs do you have in place for your client managers?
Which client managers are these? We monitor how many stats they do and how quickly the stats are done. We are working on all the KPIs at the moment, to be honest. I mean, Heather knows we're doing this. We're having a big look at everyone's job descriptions and roles. So really, I wouldn't say we're great at monitoring KPIs. It is really just number of stats. And this year, I think what's tended to happen with timing of employees when we've lost a couple and stuff, it always seems to have happened around tax return season. So we've been very behind with tax returns. So we are closely monitoring how many tax returns we've got in and how long they've been in the office. That's what we're doing at the moment on that. But we're not great at monitoring the KPIs. And because we've just put carbon in, it's all in a state of flux and change at the moment.
And I think there's a really good point here that what we're hearing from you, Sian, is your practice has got to a certain size, and what worked maybe at 500,000 is not working now.
Yeah, I'm changing everything.
And you're fundamentally, as you say, there's a piece of work on that. It's relooking at your structure. What's the ideal roles? What should people be doing? How do you put in that what I would call that foundation of management that, you know, you've had good, keen school leavers graduates that have been working for you. So they've been keen and eager, haven't they, to get ahead, take initiative, you know, move forward and develop. So you haven't necessarily had to do some of that monitoring that many practices would do. And now you've got new people coming in from acquired practices, and you've got, hang on, this isn't working anymore. So
yeah, I'm changing everything. But what I have always been very, very hot on, so this isn't specifically on the client managers, but I crawl all over my P&L. I've got an annual forecast, which is pretty damn accurate from month one. I know what I'm going to do for the full year, and I'm continually monitoring profitability. And I am looking at capacity from the point of view of the P&L. And I do know we monitor what I call our FFP, which is fixed fee package income, which is my regular recurring direct debit income, and I expect it to go up by a certain amount every month. So I look at capacity from that point of view and what our trend is on that, and in terms of what's dropping through to bottom line. So I monitor that sort of thing very closely, and I always have.
So you're a non-timesheet based practice.
Well, we were, but we are doing timesheets now, just because we're bigger to look at capacity and how long jobs are taking and things.
So how did you manage for so long to not have timesheets?
Because I kept a real eye on the profits. I tell you, when we've decided we don't use timesheets for billing at all, it is so I can look at capacity and profits, and that's why we put carbon in. It's when COVID hit and we were all at home. I used to be in the office with them. I could see exactly what was going on, whereas now we've stayed working from home, a lot of us, and we go into the office some of the time. It's so much harder to have a feel for what's going on and make sure everything is working efficiently and properly. So it's so I can look at efficiencies and where we can improve profitability. That's really why I've got it. It's not for billing purposes.
Yeah, it is. So and another question from Sarah. Where do you source your acquisitions from? Oh, Sarah, you missed a really good members morning when we were talking about all of this stuff. So where do you source your acquisitions from? Because you've done about 4 now, haven't you?
Yeah, it varies. It's been word of mouth, or they have been when I've had mailers come into my inbox about local practices for sale, and I've responded to it. And then because they get to know me, they contact me when there's something local. So it's either word of mouth or through mailings.
And I know, Sarah, our members definitely recommend looking for word of mouth, you know, making it known that you're interested in a practice, not necessarily going through a broker, you know, because a broker is there to get the best possible sale price for the seller, not necessarily to get the right buyer in place for what is a, you know, the right price for it. So, question for you, you know, in 9 years, you grew £1 million practice. You've never been to a networking event. As far as I'm aware, you've never done pay-per-click.
No, I did. I went to a networking event early on when I was first setting up, but that was part of my research phase where I decided, nah, not worth it.
So how did you win these clients? You know, growing, you know, by 100 to 150 grand a year isn't easy.
We did. I got the marketing in place quite early on. Within the first few years, I got really good marketing in place. Like our website has always been good.
Yes.
And I've spent a lot of time on that. And I think that's the key to it. I think that's what I'd say it is. Yeah, so we get a lot of business off the website. We don't do, even my business development guy. So up until 2 years ago, I did all the new business inquiries, but that's something else I've got rid of now. And we've got a business development manager who does it, but he does go out and do some networking, but he doesn't really get much in the way of leads off it. It's more just about sort of local presence and profile. They come through the website. Or referrals because of the size we are now. Yeah,
so I mean, yeah. I know a lot of our members say somewhere between $250,000, $500,000. Actually, their main source of new business becomes referrals. Was that the same for you?
Yeah. A lot of our business is through referrals.
And you know, we discovered very much in one of the sessions that if you want your business to come through referrals, you can actually do that at quite a small size, but you've got to put a lot of management time and focus on getting a high level of service. So how do you do that? You know, you're not in every single day, you're not overlooking, you've got young people. How have you delivered that level of service that I've, you know, referred 1 or 2 clients to you that weren't small ones?
Yeah, well, we used to do a lot of training courses and stuff, and that's probably slipped a bit since COVID, to be honest, which is where we're working on sort of the business structure and getting things like that in place and having development plans for the staff. But we are very sort of focused. We have regular meetings with the client. And if there are any problems that crop up on a client, we have a twice a week team meeting. And it's a bit, I don't know whether anyone's ever watched the TV show House MD, where you sort of analyse a case as a team and go through it. We if there is a problem to do with service, we'll analyse it and fix what's gone wrong so it doesn't happen again. So we're right on top of any service issues and training needs like that come from a new member of staff not understanding what to do or somebody doing something incorrectly. I mean, I worked at Disney as a youngster many moons ago. Like, you know, customer service is right sort of top of my list of things, and if I find that's not right, I will be sort of not happy and people will know about it.
Yes, how do I put it this way? I think when you and I are not happy, our team know about it, don't they?
Yeah.
So how do you keep your process and systems streamlined? You know, how do you get your team working the same way? You know, how do you do this stuff?
Processes and process mapping, and continuously reviewing it as well, because we never finish a process document. And I started to get frustrated about that recently, but it is because I keep changing things or finding a better way of doing something. We continuously review them. So we had a process document for everything we do, then we've put carbon in. And because we've put workflows in carbon, it's changed some of the steps slightly because we thought about something or thought of a slightly more efficient way of doing things, or we've decided we've got bigger, that step can be done by a more junior level now. Those sort of things, they're continually getting changed to make us more efficient and effective as a practice. So whilst I think processes are amazing, it's got to be continuous improvement of processes that you operate as a business.
And I don't think people realise you have somebody called Andrew in your business.
Yeah, he's working.
And he's your full-time troubleshooter, project manager, you know, he does some management accounts, doesn't he?
A little bit. He works on all the projects with me mainly, though. I'll brief him on what he needs to do, and he'll go away and do all the documentation and processes and stuff. He does a couple of management accounts, but not many.
So, and I think it's important to realise that, you know, when you get to a certain size, you know, bring in somebody. I mean, you've homegrown, Andrew. Bring in somebody that can support you with, you know, getting the process streamlined, doing those big tech projects like putting in carbon. I mean, I imagine Andrew's done a huge amount of work with integrating the two practices.
Yeah, he works on all that side of things with me.
Yeah. Now, you're quite known within cloud circles. You were expat for a while. Those of you who know will know. So what's in your tech stack right now in a business?
We're on Google. We've got Xero, Dext, Carbon, Practice Ignition. I'm trying. If I knew you were going to ask me that, I'd have called up my little chart. I'm trying to think what we've got. I don't know. We use Fathom for all the forecasting. What else is there?
What are you using for payroll?
Bright HR, not Bright HR.
Bright Pay. Yes.
Pay. Yeah, Bright Pay. What else is there? Tax Calc.
Yeah. That's the main ones, aren't they? Your reporting is Fathom. Dext is your receipt captures.
Yeah.
Xero is your main. I know you do a little bit of QuickBooks free agent work as well.
A little bit, yeah, which we've acquired with other practices. So now we've got quite a few QuickBooks. We use Go Cardless for payments, for the monthly DDs. Just started using Cresco for payments, actually, for instant payment. That's quite good. And we started using Modular for paying payroll.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's probably the bulk of it.
It's the main stack, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got LastPass for the sort of controlling everything overall.
I'm surprised our mutual IT supplier, Kimberley IT, hasn't been telling you to move to Bitwarden. Oh,
it won't work for us as a reason.
There's
something we do where it's a problem. I can't think what it is. Yeah, they started to move it and realised it wouldn't work. I can't remember what it is.
Yes, I've just made the shift. I'm like, why didn't I make this about 2 years ago? But never mind. So what are your challenges that you're facing right now as you plot the next phase of your growth, which is, of course, consolidating your 2 newly acquired firms? And then where next? You know, how big is big enough for you?
How big is big enough? Don't know, because the problem with me is that once I get this fixed, I'll get bored and decide we're not big enough. Right now, I'm happy. But I don't know. So not sure how big enough is, but challenges right now are to try and get some sort of, just if we are going to grow, get that management tier structure in place properly. Yeah.
So let's open this up to questions. But I think the big things I've taken from this is about it is about knowing the size of business you are and the priorities. Because I think if you'd realised that those acquisitions, that this would have forced you into really thinking about your structure. I wonder, would you have taken on both acquisitions if you know that this sort of?
No, possibly not. I don't know. It's just you don't know when they're going to come up, though, do you? It's like
no.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. So have we got any questions? We've had a couple of questions from Sarah, which I've answered, but we have a lot of club members. So obviously there's a lot of, I'm looking at it going, right, okay, this is almost a members morning again. I wanted to ask that question. Which podcast were you listening to that was talking about the 20 to 50?
Oh, I don't know what it was. I've got rid of it. It built something to, it wasn't built to sell. Oh gosh. It was to do with selling businesses. It has lots of different entrepreneurs who've sold their businesses on there and talking about systemizing and stuff. I'd have to find it. I don't know.
That's all right. Sarah, we can get that across to you. So, right, I think we are now at past. Now, if you've been listening to this and you're like, well, I'm maybe not going to get as big as Sian, but inspired to grow your practice, your next step is to book a call with Yasmin. Yasmin in our team can help you talk through what you're trying to do, help you understand your key issues. And then, of course, if we're the right, if we can help you, then we'll go on to a more formal conversation. I'm just going to put in how people get in touch with you, your email, because you're not really, well, you are on LinkedIn, but not a lot, but you're definitely not on Facebook. So best way to get in touch with Sian is there. And I can't see any questions coming through apart from that. So thank you very much, Sian. I really appreciate this. It's been good to finally get this conversation to happen, and good luck with the restructure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye.